What is going on, everybody? It's the France, and we're here for Unscripted episode number 124 for June 21st, 2020, and it has been a very, let's say, crazy week in the world of professional wrestling. We've had a lot of those this year, from COVID-19 to WWE being susceptible to COVID-19 with things that have been going on in their company, to firings on Black Wednesday, to Wednesday into Thursday, the Speaking Out movement, which I went over it a little bit on Friday's episode of SmackDown Review, and all I'm going to say is this. Everything that's going on right now, anybody who comes out and says, this is what happened between me and this person, it's all accusations. Until there is a police investigation of any kind. Now, granted, Jack Gallagher was released right before SmackDown went on the air, so the only reason I can think that he got released is simple. He admitted to WWE, or they asked him about it, and he said, yeah, that happened, and they fired him. Other than that, it's all speculation. It's all accusations. You can't just sit there and say, oh, well, that's awful. How could that person do that? The biggest problem with giving accusations is it's one side of a story. And there's a lot of times where a story that is being told, that one side that you're hearing, could be absolutely false, because that person, and this happens a lot, the person who is making the accusations are making the accusations because the person that they're accusing broke up with them and it hurt them deeply. They thought they were madly in love with this person. They thought they were always going to be with this person, and they broke up with them, and that person is pissed off and wants to get them back. That can happen, and it has happened before. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't actual validity to all of these. Almost everything that you've heard over the last 48 to 72 hours what's after 72? So 100 hours. The last 100 hours. Let's just say that. Last 100 hours. Everything that you've seen could be 100% true. But you don't know that until everything comes out. Everything comes out, police investigate, and it's found out to be true. Yes, terminate those people, get them out of wrestling, because we do not need them. We need more positivity in the wrestling business. Jim Valley was on Wrestling Observer on Friday and mentioned about one of Playboy Buddy Rose's, I think it was, wife or ex-wife, in the 70s or 80s, called the police on a domestic dispute, and the police showed up and they wanted the guy's autograph. Didn't do anything, and she tried to talk to some wrestling people in the back, and they just told her, well, you should have known what you were getting when you married this guy. So it's been crazy. There's not much else I can really say. Matt Riddle's been accused. That has already been debunked, because Matt Riddle's lawyer has already stated that this woman has been stalking not just Matt Riddle, but his wife as well, over the last 2+ years. So anything that she has said, you can take with a grain of salt, because she's, like I said, she probably falls under the line of her and Matt Riddle dated at one time. Matt Riddle broke up with her. She was pissed off, and she wants to get back at him, and that's all I can say about that. But not much else I can really say. But if it's anything that comes out to be true, get rid of them. We don't need that scum in any line of work, and it's not just professional wrestling. Movies, sports, news, any line of professional wrestling, any line of work that, well, I'm going to say, any line of work that you have, whether it's your local burger joint all the way up to the president's, Congress, there is always sexual abuse happening everywhere. It could be your local deli, it could be the governor's office in your local state. There's always something going on that is done behind people's back. Now, a lot of people are going to come out during this and be like, oh, well, I had no idea. This person would be like this. And that's true. There are a lot of people in this world who are really good. Really good at hiding what they are doing from everybody they know. They could be the most dastardly of dastardly people, and they just prey on women or they prey on children and they hurt people. But when you see them, you couldn't. They look like they had the biggest heart and a heart of gold, and you would never suspect what they are doing. It happens all the time. So if you actually see a professional wrestler come out during these, it's like, I spent time in the locker room with this person, I never knew they were this way. They are probably telling the truth. Now, yes, there's probably a couple that are hiding or, backing them up and trying to be like, oh, they would never do that. And they're just trying to vouch for this person. That can happen too. But a lot of these guys, or men and women who come out, it's like, I've been around this person for years, even decades, and I never knew or ever suspected. And it happens. But let everything go out. If you have any problems, speak out if you can. If you don't think that you have the strength to speak out of your problems, that is fine. And it doesn't mean you're weak. It just means that whatever happened to you is something that you don't think, like, it's so dastardly that you don't think anybody will believe you. And there's that too, is like a lot of people can come out with this shit and they don't believe you because that's just how it works. This world is not a good place. If you're still ducking your kid at night trying to tell him that sunshine and rainbows are really what's going to happen out there and you're just going to be everything's great, you're lying to your kids. Just don't sit there and tell, for the parents who go through this, and they say, don't meet your heroes. Honestly, pick and choose who your heroes are. Because some of these professional wrestlers, if you meet them, are going to be the greatest person you ever met. They're going to be a really kind-hearted person. But, there's some out there who seem kind, but actually are very manipulative and have very nefarious means of what they want to do and how they want to. You want to meet them, they're gonna ask for something else in return. It happens all the time. But enough negativity. We're going to talk about the Undertaker's Last Ride, episode 4, which debuted last Sunday. The finale is tonight. I cannot wait to see this. This has been one of the best things on WWE Network. I love these documentary series that they do. They do 24 for every WrestleMania. I doubt they're going to do a 24 during the Royal Rumble season next year for WrestleMania 36. This will be this year's WrestleMania will be the WrestleMania that everybody forgets. Especially after COVID's over and we're back to having live crowds. People are going to forget about this year's WrestleMania. But, as you know, 3 weeks ago, The Undertaker's Last Ride, episode 3, ended with Crown Jewel 2018, in which it was a terrible match. That match was absolutely the worst thing you could ever see on TV. Shawn Michaels comes out of retirement to team with his brother-in-arms, D-Generation X member, Triple H, versus Kane and The Undertaker, Brothers of Destruction. And from the moment Triple H's tricep tour or pec tour, whatever it was, the match went off the rails. Now, this episode started off right after, as soon as we got done with episode 3, this one started right away. It was still in Crown Jewel. Undertaker, of course, hated. He took blame for the majority of that match. He blamed himself for everything going on. He says this match should have been magical. And 10 years ago, he would be right. 15 years ago, he would have been right. But Undertaker did mention how he's like, well, at the time, him and Michelle were going through some personal problems at home. And I just want to cut him off there and be like, listen, that's an excuse. This was 4 50-plus-year-old men in the middle of a fucking wrestling ring having a match that they did not need to be having in 100-plus degree weather in Saudi Arabia. This was the recipe. This was going to be a recipe for disaster. I don't give a shit if you were having the best personal life at home. When you walk through the door for your job, you leave the personal shit at home. Sorry. That's how it should be. To sit there and say, oh, well, Michelle and him were having problems at home and he wasn't all there. Well, apparently, nobody else was all there because that match was terrible. From Triple H getting injured, Kane losing his match, Shawn Michaels doing a moonsault, almost landing on his head because Kane and The Undertaker weren't close enough to catch him. Every single thing of this match was a disaster. So him using the line, well, it was all on me and everything, and that I had problems at home. Nah, there were problems all over that match. After we get through the Crown Jewel stuff, we get a lot of early day footage of The Undertaker. Him talking about his respect for the business, how much he loves this business. We get to see some outtakes too. Like back in the day, back when he first started, he didn't talk that much. It was Paul Bearer. All he did was probably be like, "Rest in peace," and that's all he would do. Then, of course, after a while, he took the mic and he started talking, and he just came from there. But we get to see some, and this was also great about this, is it's, yes, we're going over from 2017 to 2020 his career, but we have looked back on his early days, his Attitude Era days, his Ruthless Aggression days as well as the End of an Era days, when he, lost the streak, or right before that when he cut his hair, the 4 big matches between him, Shawn Michaels, and Triple H. All 4 of them, all of that. We've seen it all, and it's just great stuff. So it's always, like, these documentary series are great because we see stuff like this all the time. You get to see outtakes, you get to see Undertaker, which at the time, if you would have seen these outtakes of The Undertaker back in 1992, 1993, 94, 95, 96, 97, and so on and so forth until he became the biker, of course, it would have killed his gimmick. Undertaker was so protective. I'm surprised. Honestly, I'm surprised that Undertaker didn't have that Vince McMahon did not have the outtake footage of this burned and destroyed, so it would never see the light of day. But it did, and we get to see it, and it's just some good stuff. So, yes, we saw some early footage. It was priceless, but the screw-ups were great too. Seeing him flub a line and then he just breaks character, which of course at the time Undertaker, we would have never seen the Undertaker break character like that. It was just great stuff. Undertaker sitting there and he also talked about how he decided early on he was going to commit to this role. He was not going to be somebody who acts like the dead man on TV, but as soon as he goes back to the curtain, he's Mark Calloway again. He would be the dead man. He would go to a press conference back in the day wearing all black. He would barely talk. He would just say, "Am I going to be here to do something, or you just want to hear me say rest in peace?" He was committed, and quite honestly, up until about 3-4 years, 2-3 years ago, he was the one guy who protected the business more than anybody. I think MJF is in that category too, where they are the character from in the ring and outside of the ring. That was The Undertaker. Hell, the year after the Cleveland Cavaliers won the NBA championship, I believe he showed up to a Cleveland Cavaliers game dressed in the dead man garb. He was up, he had his tights on, he had his jacket, his hat, his gloves, the makeup on, the whole 9 yards. He was there as The Undertaker. He was not there as Mark Calloway, he was there as The Undertaker. That's how protective he has been of this entire gimmick until recently. Now, on the way to WrestleMania 35, he wasn't booked. He did not have a match that night. He figured his WrestleMania magic was gone after what happened the previous year, the 2 years before that with Roman Reigns, the short 2-minute match he had with John Cena. He just figured he didn't need to be on the show anymore, and honestly, I figured that would be the best way to go. So Undertaker, of course, just going what he was doing from Crown Jewel the previous year to going to WrestleMania. There's a picture of Shane McMahon hugging Vince. You see the Undertaker, it wasn't a video, it wasn't a picture, it was a video of him Shane hugging Vince after his match. And the Undertaker is just sitting there, and you just see the look on his face of, I should be out there, I should be doing something, this is what I come for every single year, why am I not out there? He just, and the thing of it is, it's you have this thing of him and Brock Lesnar getting jovial, they're having Like, you can see, like, he looks happy. He's healthy. He's not out there going to kill himself to be at WrestleMania. Him and Brock are cracking a joke about something. And then they go to another scene. And The Undertaker, you see Brock Lesnar watching the show. And you see Undertaker in the background. And he just has this disappointed look on his face. Like, honestly, to me, it looks like he's like thinking, I really let the fans down. I have been at WrestleMania every year since WrestleMania X7. He missed WrestleMania 2000 due to a shoulder injury, came back as the American Badass a couple months later, but he's been at every WrestleMania from X7 to 34. That's a hell of a streak in and of itself. But he wasn't there, and you just see this Undertaker who really looks like he let his fans down. That's all you can say, is it looks like he's not happy with what has happened, like him leaving away from WrestleMania. Then you see you see Shawn Michaels talking to him. We don't hear what they're saying. Maybe Shawn Michaels is giving him words of advice of what it's like to not be in the ring and everything, and what it could be like to be away from wrestling, which, of course, The Undertaker at that time hasn't been yet. Then we have Undertaker admitting, before that, yeah, there was this part where it's like Undertaker, as we know, the night after WrestleMania, Undertaker appeared and chokeslammed and tombstoned Elias. He tombstoned him, and I was like, real. I remember that last year going, really? The Undertaker was needed for this, but he wasn't on WrestleMania? But that appearance almost didn't happen because Undertaker knew he wasn't booked. He wasn't booked at all for WrestleMania. So Undertaker did the one thing the one rookie mistake that you're not supposed to do for a guy who's been in the wrestling business for almost 30 years at the time. He left his gear at home. Even like the saying in wrestling is, come prepared so you don't have to be prepared, or something like that. Like, come to work. It's like come prepared, so you're ready. I can't remember what the actual quote is, but it's like, always have your gear so you're ready when you need it. I mean, like, remember when The Rock beat Eric Rowan in about 6 seconds? He came out with sweatpants on and a t-shirt, ripped it all off, had his tights on already, had put knee pads and elbow pads on, and was ready to wrestle. Undertaker left his gear at home, and like a couple days before WrestleMania, Vince McMahon told him, we have an idea for Raw. We want you on Raw. And he's like, Vince, I didn't bring my gear. Vince is like, what? You didn't bring your gear? He's like, oh, rookie mistake. So he had to fly home. He literally had to fly home to get his gear. And, hey, it just shows that even The Undertaker, who is 30 plus years in this business by now, can make rookie mistakes. Hey. Then, of course, we got that spot, and we didn't know when the next time we were going to see The Undertaker, but it just shows you that The Undertaker can go out there and make a mistake. Then, of course, we had the thing with Elias, which apparently was them setting up for Crown Jewel, which made no sense whatsoever. I still never understood why he attacked Elias and what it went to, because it went nowhere. Elias was on Raw, and then we get to the next Saudi show, and he's challenging Goldberg, who for some reason is now a SmackDown star. Even though the entire time Goldberg has been a part of WWE up until this match with The Undertaker, he's been a Raw star, even in his 2003 run. Now, this was something I didn't think they would actually want to talk about. Remember in 2018 or 2019, last year, The Undertaker was announced for StarCast the night before Double or Nothing. Now, Undertaker apparently, and I don't buy this one fucking bit unless he is living under a fucking rock, he said he was oblivious to the fact that AEW, he doesn't mention AEW, he just says another company, which is typical WWE rhetoric, another company. But he signed on for this, and Vince McMahon was not happy. Not at all. I guess him and Vince McMahon had a falling out. They didn't talk for a while. Of course, Undertaker a couple years ago hired a social media person to run his social accounts and everything, and they set this up. He didn't, and Vince was like, "Hey, what are you doing? People think that if you're doing this, you're gonna go show up at Double or Nothing." Undertaker's like, "If anybody knows me, I'm loyal as can be. I'm not gonna show up anywhere. I'm just gonna do this and go home." Knowing Undertaker, he probably would have had if they would have did things right or anything. You have him on the Thursday night. He does his meet and greet, and then he leaves. Double or Nothing would have been 2 days later, but he got pulled, of course, and then was given a 15-year contract, and we're in year number 2. But yeah, I'm surprised that they added this, but it needed to be addressed because, of course, The Undertaker, if anybody thought if The Undertaker was going to StarCast that, oh, Undertaker's going to be at Double or Nothing, and yes, there were actually people last year, if I'm correct, who thought The Undertaker, of all people, was going to go to Double or Nothing after his visit at StarCast. Are you insane? Fucking dumb how stupid people were. But yes, it was something that really, really needed to be addressed, and I'm glad they did. Yes, I knew they weren't going to mention the words AEW. I mean, WWE did that once just because they wanted Sami Zayn to sound like he was going off the script, which was fucking stupid. But it's what WWE does. And then we get to the Nightmare. Everything after this whole StarCast thing, and they had their falling out for a bit, they made up, and then there was the next Saudi show, which I believe was Super Showdown last year. I could be wrong. Maybe it was Crown Jewel last year. But as we know, it was Goldberg versus The Undertaker. Now granted, 20 years ago or 10 years ago, this would have been a match for everybody to see. Even 15 years ago. Hell, when 2003, which was 17 years ago, if Undertaker and Goldberg would have mixed up back then, would have been a match to see. This was 2019. This was a 50-plus-year-old Undertaker and a 50-plus-year-old Goldberg in Saudi Arabia in 100-plus degree weather, sweating their fucking balls off from the heat. This was going to go disastrous. I mean, WWE never fucking learned from something that happened in fucking November with the DX vs. Brothers of Destruction match. You put 4 50-plus-year-olds in a match that went chaotic, and one man got hurt. What happened here? You had 2 50-plus-year-old guys in the middle of a fucking 100-degree weather in Saudi Arabia. One man got hurt very badly with a concussion, busted his head open, and the other one almost had his career and life ended off a botched jackhammer afterwards. Now, this was scary. It was absolutely scary. Of course, I've only watched one Saudi show live. It was Greatest Royal Rumble, which was an absolute joke. Then the Jamal Khashoggi thing happened, and I was like, you know what? I'm not watching any more of these because, one, they don't really, except for the best in the world bullshit that we got most of last year, they really don't factor in very long to the main WWE canon. So it's like, why should I fucking watch these? They're not even, the Saudi Arabian shows aren't even really for a main WWE audience. They're mostly for those who live in Saudi Arabia. That's what they're for. That's why they're not shows that really matter as much. But yes, the match was scary. And then Undertaker talked about how even before Saudi Arabia, he mentioned that he was booked and agreed to the next pay-per-view, which was Extreme Rules, right? And he had a lot of thinking to do. From the minute he got on his plane and flew back to America from Saudi Arabia, he had a lot of thinking to do. Yes, he was booked for the next pay-per-view, which was Roman Reigns and Undertaker which was the Graveyard Dogs, which, God grief, that was actually, that would be a marketable team for you if Undertaker was at least 10 years younger. Him and Roman Reigns, tag team, God, that would have been something for WWE to run with if they could have, for much longer than just one show. But he thought, man, I have this match that I have to come up after what just happened. Do I even belong here? Is there a way for me to get out of this match? And as we know, The thinking didn't really matter because he didn't get out of the match. He had his match with Roman Reigns and Shane and Drew McIntyre at Extreme Rules, and it wasn't a bad match at all. It really wasn't. It was the best Undertaker match we had since, I would say, the CM Punk match. If I'm trying to be greedy or anything, I'm saying that was the last time Undertaker had a really good match at WrestleMania. But, of course, with it being a tag team match, it wasn't like Undertaker had to do everything. It hit his weaknesses, and it showed it. And that's what's great about a tag team match with guys like The Undertaker. It hides their weaknesses, it shows off their strengths, and you got a pretty good match. Shane McMahon bumped for him, Drew McIntyre with that rising up behind Undertaker, ready to claymore him off before he got hit with that spear. Yeah, it was a good time, I will have to admit. Now, something The Undertaker said after this was, he literally sat there and told us, he said to Shawn Michaels, "I should have left with you." If that, you know what that means. Shawn Michaels retired after WrestleMania 26, which he lost to The Undertaker in a career versus streak match. And The Undertaker has told Shawn Michaels that after everything that he's been through, he should have left at the same time. And honestly, I would agree. Because it was after that second match between Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker when Undertaker started taking his sabbaticals and started going from being a full-time wrestler to a part-time guy. And he slowly, and then the two matches with Triple H, then CM Punk, then Brock Lesnar, then Bray Wyatt, then Brock Lesnar, 2 or 3 times, I believe it was, during the summer of 2015, if I am correct. Then he had Shane McMahon, then he had Roman Reigns, then John Cena, then he didn't have a match, and then AJ Styles. And we'll get to that in a minute because that's going to be the topic of the next episode. So yes, he actually admitted that after the epic 2 matches, which I wish there would have been able to be a third one because Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker made absolute magic together. I mean, yes, they had a big feud, or a semi-big feud in WWF back in 1997, 97/98. Before Shawn Michaels hurt his back. But, yeah. Seeing those guys have that type of match, if it would have been both of them leaving right then and there, that would have been a perfect way to end. But we would have lost out on the 2 Triple H matches, which were pretty fucking good. The CM Punk match. Bray Wyatt wasn't a bad match. Shane McMahon jumping off of a Hell in a Cell. And the Boneyard match this year. But we also would have been spared Crown Jewel 2018 and whatever the hell, I think it was Crown Jewel 2019. And those 2 awful matches for The Undertaker. It's just like you have those pros and cons. It's like the pros we had Triple H twice, we had CM Punk, Bray Wyatt wasn't a bad match. Shane McMahon jumping off a Hell in a Cell, but the cons are the streak being broken, concussion on that match, and the 2 Saudi Arabian shows, which were absolutely terrible. Now, after Extreme Rules 2019, The Undertaker did tell Vince McMahon that he was retiring. He felt like his time was up. That was it. That was to end on, which honestly it was. Even though you should lose on your way out. Just ask Kurt Angle and anybody else who actually really retires. When it's all said and done, and we get through all these parts, as they did with episode 1, 2, 3, and now 4, we get the preview for the next episode. But before that, right after Undertaker got done talking to Vince McMahon, we see AJ Styles and The Undertaker walking down a hall, and The Undertaker actually tells his camera crew, "Hold on, guys, for a minute. We'll hold on for a minute," and it cuts to the next preview. So basically, if I'm reading this right, The Undertaker and AJ Styles talked about this match that we got at WrestleMania all the way back at Extreme Rules 2019. That's crazy. That's cool. And it just shows you how much respect AJ Styles has for The Undertaker. They actually talk this stuff out. And if you harken back to the first episode of this entire thing, Undertaker was waiting for his match with I believe he was waiting for his match with Roman Reigns. And he was watching AJ Styles have his match, which I believe was against, what was that, WrestleMania 30? That was WrestleMania 34, 32. No, it wouldn't have been that one. It was one of those matches that Undertaker, it was like AJ Styles, I think, first match at WrestleMania, and he was like, I wish I could have been around for this guy, and he was all talking about how he wanted to work a match with AJ Styles. Lo and behold, here we are, 2020, we got that match. And it was all started back, it all started, the seeds and everything were all started back at Extreme Rules 2019. That is a pretty cool deal. I can't wait for tonight's episode. It should actually be live on the WWE Network, probably an hour or two after this goes live on YouTube. So look out for the Undertaker, The Last Ride, the finale, this coming Sunday, today. I know they like to advertise that it's going to be live at 8 o'clock on the WWE Network when it's already going to be on TV or on the show or on the network by then. So that is the Undertaker, The Last Ride. We're going to take a look. I'm just like, this entire week has been weird. I know WWE got tested, like WWE on Monday. This sucked. This was one of those things that had to happen. It was going to happen eventually, and it happened. But WWE got the second test positive result of COVID-19 for somebody working at the PC. They announced that on June 9th, a PC Performance Center talent, not an NXT star, did you guys hear that? I hope you didn't. Not an NXT talent, but somebody from the PC tested positive for COVID-19. And on Tuesday, which was supposed to be another episode of Raw, SmackDown, 205 Live, and Main Event, was all canceled because they were going to be using that time to test everybody. And once all the testings come back, they were going to go back ahead with the scheduling. Here's my thing on this. WWE taped Raw, SmackDown, 205 Live, and Main Event last week for this week. The June 9th episode, they were there on June 9th. That was a Tuesday. Why did they... Well, I know why they did Monday Night Raw like that, because WWE wanted to erase the Paul Heyman era's final episode before they took over for Bruce Pritchard, which would have been probably better than what we saw. Did you know Christian was not cleared to wrestle when he had that no holds barred match, or that unsanctioned match that lasted about 5 minutes, not even 2 minutes? Bell rings, low blow, punt kick, and that was that. So this guy, who was forced to retire, I believe, for concussions, had to, quote unquote, come out of retirement to be low blowed and kicked in the head. WWE in their desperation is sickening. But now WWE has got this thing where, if you noticed on Monday Night Raw, and this is another thing of why they probably did this, is because if you notice when the Street Profits came out, and this is the first time they've done this since they brought talent on to be in the crowd, they walked out into the crowd and they did their usual thing. They danced with the crowd, they celebrated with the crowd. Eric Bugenhagen, Rick Boogs sat there and played air guitar with them, acting like a fool. And then we got to the hard cam side, and you noticed there's some really older and younger people in this portion of the crowd. Those aren't talent. Those aren't PC talent. Those are actual legitimate fans. It's just ironic that now that WWE did this, they had to cancel everything they did on Tuesday to test for COVID. Something they should have been doing every single week since it's been available. Now I understand when this whole thing started, testing was probably not possible because it was something that just came out of, I wouldn't say it came out of nowhere, but how fast it spread, allegedly, came out of nowhere. Nobody expected this to go spread as fast as it did. But when WWE, I guarantee you WWE's had access to tests since at least the end of May, if maybe the beginning of May. They should have been testing, but what were they doing? They were doing temperature checks. There's a problem with that. How many people have been tested positive for this disease and have not had a high temperature? I mean, that's one way to do it, I guess. If someone has a terrible temperature, you don't want them to be anywhere near you. I mean, if even if COVID doesn't happen, if this never happened, if someone comes to work with a temperature of like 150 degrees or like 100 degrees or higher, you probably shouldn't be working that day. But WWE is like, well, that's good enough for us. And then there was the one thing that I see a lot of people complaining about. While you watch this show, Michael Cole, Corey Graves, the talent, and the real fans that you saw there were actually friends and family of the talent, mostly. So, all of them, nobody was wearing a face mask. I, for one, don't think the face masks do a damn lick of anything for anybody. But WWE has made a directive, and apparently Mr. Fever Tooth Kevin Dunn, I like Word. Word is great. I love Word all day. Told people, if you wear a mask, you are not a fan. If you want to wear a mask, don't come to these tapings. What kind of dumbass are you? I mean, for fuck's sake, WWE actually has on their website sets of masks for sale. And yet, they're not allowed to show on camera people wearing masks because Kevin Dunn, the buck-toothed dumbass that he is, doesn't like how it looks on television. So he has it in Vince McMahon's head that it looks shitty on television. Now, granted, for a while there, if you watched AEW Dark for about, I think, a 3-week stretch when they came back to Jacksonville at the beginning of May. Well, yeah, I think it was the beginning of May the beginning of May. Or whenever it was. Yeah, the beginning of May. You would actually see the referees during the match wearing masks. So, yeah. You do see some talent wearing masks in the crowd at AEW. The medical staff wear masks. Anybody you see outside of the ring announcer, around the ringside area, not over it's over the barricade from camera crew to everybody. Hell, even Orange Cassidy, cosplaying as a camera crew member, a camera operator this past Wednesday, was wearing a mask. But yet, WWE thinks they don't look great on television. Who gives a shit? By the way, this is going to be really interesting to see what happens because Orange County, where the Performance Center is located, has mandated that if you are going to be working in an environment like a restaurant, like WWE is, like any of those other ones are, you have to wear a mask. Going outside, you're wearing a mask. Do I think a mask is worth a damn? No. I just find it funny how WWE would put on their shop literally, I think they have 10 or 11 different mask variations. They don't mind profiting off of these, but if people want to come to their shows, keep the mask off. You gotta be fucking kidding me. Vince McMahon cannot be this dense. Holy shit. It's just so bad. So bad how they are. WWE just will not get over themselves. So, we have this whole thing going on, and I'm hoping that things will get better. I'm hoping that we can get back to fans eventually. But, as you know, WWE, everything's going on. The numbers are going up and down, up and down, up and down, and we just have to wait and see what happens. It's going to be just how it goes. This is the wrestling life that we have right now. Now, honestly, I don't know what my channel would be doing outside of probably Unscripted if Raw and SmackDown and all that stuff was taken off TV for a while. But honestly, I think with everything that's been going on for WWE and the fact that they had at least 2 positive tests of COVID in the last, 60 days? I think they would have been better off taking a break and WrestleMania could have been their swan song for now. You get to WrestleMania, Drew McIntyre's the champion, Braun Strowman's your champion on SmackDown, and then you know what? To appease everybody who is pitching that they're still running, take a break. I know they can't do that because if they do, they probably lose their TV contracts and they lose a lot of money. But it would have been better for the company had you taken a break. And here you are, 2 positive tests in the last, I'd say 60 days. What happens? And by the way, you had a 72-year-old Ric Flair who almost died, mind you, 2 years ago, was it? Like, he's almost died at least twice. And you're having this guy on your television. Just poor Vince, poor shady practices by Vince McMahon. I don't know. So, yeah, WWE in a lot of shit. AEW just doing what they can. By the way, the speaking out stuff, as we talked about earlier, has just been going as it is. We've seen men and women out there getting accused of things, bullying, sexual abuse, sexual assault, people giving out statements. As I stated before, accusations are just accusations until there's concrete evidence. Here's the thing. Writing something on the Notepad app on your iPhone or your iPad doesn't show complete guilt. I could sit there, I could write a full paragraph of sexual abuse from somebody and say this happened to me and it didn't happen. It's accusations until anything else. Listen to this though, let's move on from this. Mike Chioda, as we remember on Black Wednesday, April 15th, Mike Chioda was one of the many, many, many talents fired or furloughed. Well, this is really sad. On part 2 of Ref Week on Talk is Jericho podcast, Chris Jericho welcomed former referee Mike Chioda discussing his 35-year career in WWE. Honestly, I thought this guy would have a lifetime contract with how long he was with WWE. He thanked WWE for his time in the company after his release, but told Jericho that his release was a surprise to him. He says, and I quote, "Yeah, Chris, it took me by complete surprise. I had surgery on October 1st in Alabama, and I had a torn rotator cuff and a torn bicep. Did not know that." Yeah, it's funny because I don't think Chioda's been on TV before he got released. So I went through the surgery in Alabama with Dr. Dugas, who does a lot of the talent surgeries. And surgery went great. I'm healed up great, and I was ready for WrestleMania. Actually signed a new contract in the middle of March. My contract was up. Actually got a little bump in pay, and then I got a phone call on tax day. So yeah, it took me a complete surprise. How shitty can it be that Mike Chioda signs a brand new contract, probably for another 5 years to get him to 40 years with this company, and he doesn't. I don't think he worked WrestleMania. Jericho asked if there was a specific reason for his release. Chioda says there was not one given and believes that he was chosen due to the amount of money he was making at the time. No, there was no reason. I asked if it came from certain people like Vince and Stephanie, and he said, no, it didn't. It sounded like they pulled me out of a hat and said, okay, we have a company and Mike Chioda's salary is at the start of things. I was like, I think something's completely different. I don't know if it's heat, but how can you have heat if you've been off for 6 months rehabbing? I haven't been on Twitter and Facebook since 2015, so yeah, it took me by complete surprise. Jericho referenced Mike Eaton comparing it to Mike Chioda's situation, where a long-time employee was cut out of nowhere for not specific reasons. Chioda assured that his career in wrestling is not over and he has plans to return to the ring and plans to help train referees. Now, that's gotta suck. I mean, you give 35 years to this company. You're off 6 months, which, by the way, I don't ever remember reading anywhere that Mike Chioda was injured, but hey, shit happens. But you're off for 30. You give this company 35 years of your adult life. You sign a brand new contract that's going to keep you with that company probably for 5 years. Give you a little bit of a pay raise, and they're like, well, no, we changed our mind. We're going to fire you. It all comes down to how much of a shady bastard Vince McMahon is. Someone gives him that much of their life, and he says, you know what? Fuck you, Chioda. We gave you what we gave you. You gave us 35 years, but it wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough, and it's so stupid that they would do such a thing. Give me some AEW news here on Wednesday. On Wednesday, we will see, of course, the go-home show to Fyter Fest, which is going to be July 1st and July 8th. They did advertise that it's going to be that Orange Cassidy will be going face-to-face with Chris Jericho. That is going to be something very, very interesting because of how everything's been going out. Jericho versus Orange Cassidy at Fyter Fest is going to be one of those sleeper hits that we know we're going to want to see. I hope it's not going to be like Pound Off Repeat where Cassidy goes for something and a Judas effect out of nowhere. I doubt it, but we'll have to wait and see. So, former referee Jimmy Corderas, we'll probably finish up here if we had the time, says it may be too soon for fans at Raw. Earlier this week, WWE talent tested positive for COVID-19, which resulted in suspension of Tuesday's tapings. Former referee Jimmy Corderas weighed in on the situation, which he joined the Wrestling Inc. Daily podcast. He said, and I quote, "I hate to sound like this, but I'm not surprised. We're hearing about MLB or hockey or football players testing positive, especially with wrestlers being in such close proximity. I'm surprised it's taken this long for someone to test positive." Which isn't true because we had somebody test positive in, what was it, right after WrestleMania? Didn't we have somebody test positive like right after WrestleMania? And WWE just went, oh, well, nothing to see here. I believe it was actually on the WrestleMania tapings is when we had somebody get tested positive, if I'm correct. But I'm glad they're taking the right steps going forward to try and minimize the potential spread of this. People are saying, oh, they could have avoided this, but you never know. I'm not an expert on COVID, but I know that there are people who are asymptomatic that could potentially be near you, so you never know. Corderas, I don't think you've actually read lately, but the CDC has updated that asymptomatic have a least likely chance to spread COVID than somebody who has symptoms. So, asymptomatic, if you're asymptomatic, there's a less likely chance of you spreading it. So, this person who probably tested positive for COVID probably wasn't an asymptomatic person. WWE lost just one day of taping, with tapings finally resuming again on Wednesday. Where everyone on the site and the Performance Center was tested for the virus, Corderas was asked if WWE had taken more than 1 day waiting to return to ring action. It depends. I think maybe waiting for test results to come back, which is what they did. They actually canceled the SmackDown tapings on Wednesday because the test for some reason, the tests for the SmackDown talent, or most of the SmackDown talent, weren't coming in. So Raw's taped for next week, 205 Live and Main Event all seem to be taped. SmackDown is not. SmackDown is probably going to be taped. It's apparently supposed to be getting taped next Friday. My question is, if you're just going to go through that, why not just do a live episode? Get it over with. Just do one live episode. It's not going to kill you if you're just going to do that. I read on the Wrestling Inc. and I was actually a little bit surprised. I get you want to start getting back to somewhat normal, but at the same time, you don't want to rush it. Without proper testing, what do you do? Screen people at the door and go, hey, show us the papers. Did you get tests done? It's hard. He laughs. I think it might be a little too soon for that. The fans in attendance at the development talent in the crowd were not wearing masks. Corderas was asked if WWE should mandate that incoming fans wear masks. That's not going to happen, but guess what? It's out of WWE's hands now because Orange County and Orlando area have been mandated to be wearing masks starting, this past Friday? So when it comes to the mask thing and being mandated to wear masks, either A, everybody's wearing a mask on WWE television after next Friday, or after Monday, and NXT as well, because NXT is taped as well. Or two, WWE goes back to empty arena with nobody in the crowd, and we get this shit again for the next whatever time it takes. That's the only thing I could see happening. Yes, well, WWE perhaps missed out on a marketing opportunity by not creating and selling masks. Corderas, they do. There are masks on WWE Shop. Has he not paid attention to WWEshop.com? There's they even have a fiend mouth as a mask. There are WWE masks on the shop, so I don't know where he's getting that they missed out on a marketing opportunity. They're missing out on the marketing opportunity because they're not advertising their mask. They're there, but you don't see Michael Cole or Corey Graves wearing them because Vince McMahon wants to live in his own bubble where everything on the outside of the Performance Center isn't something inside. If it was up to Vince McMahon, and Vince McMahon had free reign to do whatever the fuck he wants in his Performance Center, there would be a full house every night that they're taping, and you wouldn't see a single fucking mask anywhere. It would be just like a normal taping because inside the Performance Center, it's his rules. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. Unfortunately, that's still not the case because he can't have a full crowd of talent in there. Now, apparently WWE wants to have 3 phases when it comes to bringing talent back into, or not talent, but bringing fans back. Phase 1 is to, of course, have the NXT talent that they've had. And I believe phase 2 is what they're trying to do now, which is to have friends and family in there. And then they eventually want to whittle it down to where it's just fans and like a small group of fans. They want to eventually phase out the NXT talent and just have their own and just have fans, and then eventually go from very little to a full crowd. All I know is this entire COVID thing is a bunch of bullshit. Everything that you see on, don't believe anything you see on the fucking media because they are manipulating you to make you think that it's as bad as it actually is when it's really not. But, you know, what I say doesn't really matter because nobody fucking watches this far anyway. But it is what it is. All I know is this has been one crazy fucking week for professional wrestling from the COVID-19. I thought, wow, WWE got caught with somebody getting testing positive for COVID. There's nothing else that could top what happened on Monday. Then, lo and behold, Wednesday and Thursday come. Holy shit. Holy shit. How can you top all of that? I don't think you can't. I mean, other than the fact that, like, Jack Gallagher is fired from WWE. Travis Banks is done with Progress. Jordan Devlin still on the WWE roster, but has been suspended by Progress. Progress has dropped El Ligero from the roster. Many others are getting accused. As I stated before, it's all speculation until proven guilty. Are some of, if not all, most of these men out there guilty for what they have said, for what has happened? Yes. There are going to be many out there who are guilty for what has been accused of them. As I've stated on Twitter before, and I'll state it here, there is a lot of shady people in this world. Here is the reality of this. Yes, professional wrestling has had this sexual abuse stuff in it for decades. Is it right? No. Should it exist? No. But it's just like any other business out there. You drain the swamp of what you have right now, and then somebody else is going to come in to fill the swamp up with their sludge and their slime. Unless you were to eradicate every single person in this world, in this country, in this world, not just this country, but in this world, who is a sexual predator, who is manipulates and uses sex to get hangs sex over a person's head, or sexually harasses or anything else, bully, whatever. Unless you actually eradicate every single negative person or evil, mean person in this world, it's never going to be gone completely. You have this whole racist thing going on in the world right now, like fighting against racism. Here's the reality of that too. It's never going to be eradicated. Is it wrong? Yes. Should it exist? No. But you can't get rid of anything 100%. I want to commend anybody who is sitting there speaking out, because yes, it is very hard for anybody to use their voice to actually to make progress and get something done. It's just the reality of things. Because not just wrestling, it's any walks of life, any type of thing, sports, business, anything. You try to speak up, 99% of the time, somebody's going to call you a liar. Even if you're telling the truth, there are going to be people who are going to defend your attacker, and they're going to try and make your life a living hell. That is one of the biggest reasons, one of the biggest fucking reasons why men, women, and anybody else don't speak up when something happens, and they wait until somebody else does it, and then the floodgates open, is because nobody's going to almost nobody, they fear nobody's going to believe them. They fear nobody's going to take their side. They're going to side with their attacker. They're not going to give a damn what they say. They're going to be like, oh, well, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that. Maybe you should be this or that. Also, depending on who it is too, they might threaten the person and say, if you talk, you're going to die, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, the world is not a good place. And I hate this world. I really do. I wish we could get rid of all the evil in the world and make this a better place, but it's just not going to happen. There are really bad people in this world. Don't meet your heroes unless you know a person who, like, if you know somebody who knows this person and this person is a good egg, or like if you meet this person and they just don't, and they treat you like a normal human being, and they don't try and ask for your phone number or anything, or they don't slide into your DMs or anything, that's fine. Then you have these fucking dumb fucking scumbags who are texting and flirting and trying to get in bed with minors. Is it worth it? No, it's not worth it. All you're going to do is ruin your life and their life. Because you think that, hey, and it's like, there are countless beautiful in every single shape or size women out there, like 18 years or older. Why are you trying to lower yourself to be with a fucking young kid? Come the fuck on. That is something you should not be doing. It's wrong. It's not something that should be right. It's not something you should be doing. Is it worth it? No. Because you might think, oh, it's fine. They know what they're doing. They're old enough to think for themselves. That's not for you to decide. Now, of course, in the UK, 16. It varies upon like country too, because I know in the UK it's like 16 is the age of consent, like 18 here in the States. But it doesn't matter if they're under the age of consent in your country. Back the fuck off. Just back off. You're only going to ruin your life. You're only going to ruin their life. Here's the difference. You might ruin their life, but they're going to be able to come, with the help of friends and loved ones, they're going to be able to move on with their life, eventually, to be able to be somebody in this world. You are going to be spending 15 to 20 years behind bars for your transgressions. So, if you think that you can't, if you don't think you have a chance with somebody your age or high, or like 18, I'm saying like 16 in the UK or older, or 18 in the United States or older, and I don't know the other consent for other countries, but if you don't think you have a shot with somebody at the age of consent to your age or older, then just don't try. It's just so stupid. But hey, if you are somebody who spoke out and you're telling the truth, you're brave. If you're somebody who's speaking out just to get back at somebody because they broke up with you or because they gave you the cold shoulder, you should be ashamed of yourself to try and use this platform to hurt somebody's reputation. And if you're somebody who is innocent, do everything you can to prove your innocence. If you're guilty, you should be ashamed of yourself and you should not be able to wrestle again. But not much else you can say about that. Just keep speaking out. Again, if you are somebody who has legitimately been abused, been manipulated, been told and just brought down and felt like dirt, fight back. Speak out. Prove your attackers. Have the proof that you need to get this person off the streets. But if you're somebody who you're deeply in love with somebody and you expect them to be loyal to you, and they break up with you or they break your heart, and you just want to use the speaking out movement to get back at them or to ruin their life or extort them for money, you should be ashamed of yourself, and you should look in the mirror and be like, wow, I really am a fucked up person, and I really need to change my ways, and I really need to be better for myself and others around me. Then trust me, there are people out there who are just like that. But I have nothing else I can say. Hit that subscribe button, comment down below, like or dislike this video, find me on Twitter at The France Club, find me on twitch.tv/The France Club, and I will see you guys tomorrow for another thrilling episode of Monday Night Raw, where we don't have 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 championships on the line, the 2 tag team titles, the 24/7 I-95 7-Eleven the Eurocontinental Championship piece of shit, which they actually called coveted on SmackDown. And I don't know what the 4th one was again. Was it the United States Championship? No, it's the Women's Championship. Which I'm going to tell you right now, it's either A, Asuka loses the championship, or B, Nia Jax, who got screwed last week because of the referee, comes out, destroys both women, we get a triple threat at Extreme Rules to protect Asuka. Nia Jax is going to take the fall somehow. But that's it. I'm getting out of here. You guys have a good one.